So now, after that beautiful opening prayer, let's do the 4 limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem chen dam je dewa tang dewe ju tang den ba ju je dungal tang dungal je ju tang tra wa ju je dungal me pe dewa tampa tang min ra wa ju je nearing chak tang ni tang tra we tang no chen po la ne pa ju che. So we're going to finish this beautiful, beautiful teaching, and I think it's a very, very special teaching. I honestly do. I think it is an amazing, amazing teaching that actually gives you everything about life. And you just decided it was going to the medicine Buddha. That's all, my phone. Okay, so what I want to say, so we're doing developing awareness, the theme of Jigme Lingpa's aspirational prayer, and this is part 6. And really, if you really appreciate it, go back over it. There are lots of things. I'm going to get Nadine to put some more things on the YouTube so it's easy to access them. But what I want to say is, when we are together learning, a lot of people say to me, no, I get your videos. That's not the same. It's the group energy, which is really important, and the energy that brings us together and brings us into a really tight-knit group that can overcome. You know, I find that especially with this Monday morning, a lot of you are really consistent, and that is amazing, because I really think the consistency brings you the Guru's blessing, which is really important, because when they see a particular group like that, it's really important to do that. And I want to just say that when you have a doha, let me just mute everyone so that we don't have all your private noises. Okay, I think that when you are, I really, really think that when you look at this particular doha, which is a spontaneous song done by Jigme Lingpa, it teaches us basically, and I want to give you a short summary, just a short summary of the essence of what is there. It teaches us how to use the tool of awareness or knowing. Just use the word knowing if you don't want to use the word awareness. The one tool that we need for life and death. If you know, then you're okay. And the book that that Anam Thubten wrote is called The Citadel of Awareness. And, you know, I looked up the word citadel. I kind of knew what it meant. I knew it was some fortress like on the top of the mountain. But why did he choose to call it the Citadel of Awareness? Because a citadel in the dictionary means a castle on high ground that people used to go to in the old days when they were being attacked. Now, basically, we are being attacked in samsara. That's what we're doing every day of our lives. And so we need to find that fortress of awareness, which really is so important. So let's start with a little story, and then I think read the prayer, or you know what, I won't read the prayer today. You can do that on your own, but we'll read each verse as we actually do it. But this little story, a modern master described how the Buddha had encouraged his monks by stating that those who practiced diligently would surely be enlightened in 7 days. If not in 7 days, then in 7 months or 7 years. A young American monk heard this and asked if this was still true. The master, Ajahn Chah, promised that if the young monk was continuously mindful without a break for only 7 days, he would be enlightened. Excitedly, the young monk started his 7 days, only to be lost in forgetfulness 10 minutes later. Coming back to himself, he again started his 7 days. only to become lost once more in mindless thought. Perhaps about what he would do after his enlightenment. He was already thinking what he was going to do. That happened to Milarepa as well. Again and again, he began his 7 days, and again, he lost his continuity of mindfulness. A week later, he was not enlightened, but had come very much aware of his habitual fantasies and the wandering of his mind. A most instructive way to begin his practice on the path to real awakening. And I put at the bottom, we say in our culture, don't sit there, do something. And the Buddhists say, don't just do something, sit there. Okay, which is such a different philosophy. But you know what? It's really important because what this teaches us is truly, truly, truly to become aware. Doesn't matter if your mind wanders, as long as you know your mind is wandering. I get so fed up with myself when I do my just plain meditation at night. And my mind goes on sometimes thinking about what happened in the day, thinking about this, thinking about that and everything. Now, if your mind goes with the thought, then you're not being aware. If the mind stops and realizes it's aware, it's not aware anymore, it brings it back into yourself. That's what's important. It's not that we're supposed to sit there for days and days and days and days to become enlightened. I couldn't do that for all the money in the world. Okay, I really, really couldn't. And I like the practices, and I know that I like dynamic practices. It's the way my mind is. But at the end of the practice, you've got to bring it all down. And this is what Jigme Lingpa is talking about. So in just a very short summary of what we've been talking in the last 5 sessions, just a short summary, I was thinking, how could I put the essence without even looking at his notes? And this is what I wrote down. The whole prayer is about Z, the ground, the essence. You are Z. The essence is absolutely everything. Emptiness, Dharmakaya, whatever other names you want to give it. The essence is everything. That ground, Z, he talks about the ground, the path, and the fruition. Okay, now when you look at those 3, we're on the path, okay? But the whole of the manifestation arises from Z, from the essence. And it comes, and it's called Zinang. And we were talking a lot about what is Zinang. Zinang is the pure manifestation from the essence. Starts with 5 colored lights. Actually, it starts with what they call the Vajra chains, which is your awareness, which I started seeing when I was in India, these little squiggles that you see in front of you. And then it goes into this beautiful 5-colored light. And then the lights develop. The lights become, you see the bindus, which are these beautiful, exquisite rainbow lights. And then out of the bindus come the Buddha wisdoms or the Buddha families. And that's who we are. So that's what comes out. Zinang comes out of the ground, okay? And the ground, the primordial ground, is the state of consciousness prior to ego. Prior to ego. So once we start saying, I'm Melanie, everything is about me, everything is about my things, my family, my teaching and everything. Once we do that, we move away into delusion from the ground. Because actually, Melanie, as James Lowe says, I love the way he puts it, he says, you go, I am Melanie, or I am James, or I am so-and-so. But that ego is just one grain in the sandpit. You've had millions of different things, so we have to find out, but then who am I? What's the continuity between all these little egos that I've had along the way? Okay. And Rigpa, awareness, is in all 3, the ground, the path and the fruition. If we look at the ground, path, and fruition, the ground is always the pure essence, as I've just said. The path is where we say, you know, I want to awaken. So we start on the path, and the path clears our obscurations. Okay, it clears all the rubbish that we've covered ourselves over so that we can't see who we really are. So the path clears those obscurations, and then we come back to the fruition. The fruition's the same as the ground. So actually, we wouldn't have needed the path unless we took the ego and samsara. Then we need the path to come back to the fruition. But the fruition and the ground are exactly the same. And Rigpa, or awareness, is in all three, the ground, the path, and the fruition. It's also all three. We can call them the essence, the nature, and capacity, or emptiness, luminosity, and ceaseless compassion. Doesn't matter what you call the three. We can call them the three kayas. We can call them whatever we want. It doesn't matter. That's just a name. But there are the three aspects of us. And in this, the Jigme Lingpa talks about the youthful vase body, which if you go back to some of the talks, you'll find it there. And what exactly is the youthful vase body? As I said, it's the deathless body, the one that we never, ever, ever have to worry about in any way, because it's onward, that luminosity is in it, okay? And what he gives as the analogy, why it's called a youthful vase body, is because if you look at that youthful vase body, it's totally self-contained. The inner luminosity is inside that vase. It's inside. Okay, now here comes your question, Gail. But why would we have left in the first place? Well, we didn't have to leave the beautiful state, but we had to allow the inner luminosity to shine outwards. And if you really understand this teaching, once it has fulfilled what it came to do outwards, it goes back in. So the inner luminosity in the vase, youthful vase body, has to come out. It has to manifest in a pure, beautiful way. But we can't see the pure, beautiful way. So we see all the evil, all the ugliness, all the everything. Why? Because what happens is when the life force strikes the vase body, it's almost like the vase breaks open and all those 5 colored lights come out, and then they start making your whole nature of mind, the wisdoms, not real Buddhas, just the awakened qualities. They make them as Buddhas. They call them Buddhas because then we've got something we can look at. If they just called them awakened qualities, you'll go, so how am I going to find this? You know, you won't understand. So they give them names, family names, wisdoms, all of those kind of things. But either, now this is the choice that goes right through this doha, either as the light manifests itself in the Zi-Nang, either we recognize, look at that word, it's such an important word for you to comprehend, recognize, know, either we know, hey, everything around me is just an expression of the ground. I know it, I see it. Once we know, we liberate it. It's called awareness. We know that everything around us, I look at you, the masters look at you and they see you as an awakened being. They're not looking at all the obscurations that you've got on top of your beautiful Buddha being. And either we recognize that it comes out of the ground and we are liberated, or we say, that's outside of me, that's outside of me, that's outside of me. We see it all as separate, dualistic, and then the whole of samsara happens. So for people who never go away from awakening, samsara never happens. Like Manjushri, people like that, samsara never happened because they always know it's the ground manifesting itself. And as soon as it's manifests itself, in the end, it will come back. Now, just to give you one extra thing, just to add to it, it's so important for you to understand that when you start in the Dzogchen to see the beautiful visions, you start to see the visions, the outside, they increase, they become beautiful, they become wisdoms, they become everything. That's what we see in the bardo, okay? But the very last vision, they have to go back into the Dharma Dhatu, into the essence, into the ground. That is the universal principle. And that is what this poem, this Doha is about. So if you can recognize this, you will be liberated and awakened. If not right now, then definitely in the bardos. Every one of you, the minute you come to the bardo of Dhammata, I want you to say, oh my God, this is what Melanie was teaching us from Jigme Lingpa's poem. I see it. I identify with, I love it. And go back, do me a favor, if you have got time over these next 3 weeks, go back to my human relationships that I did, those that weren't there on the Tuesday night, because I think those 4 lectures are also very important and they help you to actually understand how to take those wisdoms and put them into relationships. I think that's a really good series you can listen to if you've got time and if you want to. If you're sick of me, then just leave me out of the picture, you know. But what I'm trying to say is we do have to be aware that there's a relative life and an ultimate life. So what's happening on the relative life, we need to be in touch with it. We need to be in touch with it, because if we're not, we just become this wandering yogi, thinking about all the beautiful things. We've got to be in touch. Hello, my boyki. Did you come back from the vet? Good, all good. And thank you for all your prayers, because it's good. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, this is your choice. There is the ultimate level, but you can't walk around the relative samsaric world splabbing about the ultimate level. How can you? I mean, we had this terrible death in the family. It's really, my daughter's father-in-law just went to the bathroom, had a heart attack and died, you know, just instantly like that. And I can't talk to him in the bardos about what we're talking about, because he's very Jewish and he would go that pathway. But all I'm saying to him is, please just leave behind the attachment. Don't worry about this grief-stricken family that are gathering in Australia from all over the world. Don't worry about that. Leave your attachment and move into the light. That's the best instruction that I can possibly give him. You know, move into the light and let it all unfold for you. That's the best instruction. But knowing this, it really, even if we are a little bit scared at death, okay, which all of us would be when the final moment comes, we're definitely going to have a little bit of fear. But the minute it starts unfolding, from the bardo of Dhammata into the bardo, from the bardo of death, where you actually see that beautiful essence, which most of us are not yet ready to actually see, to the bardo of Dhammata, where all of the Zinang manifests from the ground. And I don't want you to think about Melanie, I want you to think about Jigme Lingpa, who showed this so that people could be free. And that's a kind of summary of what we've been doing. And I want to go on to the rest, because there's some very interesting points, but that is kind of the summary that I could give you. Questions, comments, please, everybody, just ask and say whatever it is that you want to say, because I tried to put it in my own words. Does it make sense to you? Well, it does to these two. Does it make sense to you and Bert? Okay, if it doesn't make sense to you, just tell me, because it's really important stuff. Loose. And you know, Luce, where you actually say to me, and I laugh at you because you often say to me, yeah, but it's hard and I've got to go and think about it. You know, that's the funny part about it, that actually it's much easier than samsara. You know, it's just because it's foreign to our samsaric tie into life, but actually it's so easy. Because all your thoughts, all your emotions, all your everything, there's no solidity in them. They're all made of the essence. They're all made of the rainbow light, the 5 wisdoms. They're all made of it, even if we can't see it. And once you know that, you'll never get too uptight about your life and about what has to happen. We've got to decide our future now. I mean, my children are all going to be gone. They're all kind of saying, you got to come, you got to come, you got to come. It's not so easy to come, let me tell you. I mean, to go and change your whole life now is not a very easy thing. But my whole thing is, when I say my prayers, is I surrender to whatever life I would be able to give the maximum service to, full stop. Not whatever life is comfortable for me, not whatever life is really what I like. Just give me the chance. I go with my relationship with Guru Rinpoche. Just give me the chance where I can do maximum service wherever I am, where I can still look after the people that are with me, like all of you, where I can still do whatever I need to do. And it's interesting because COVID brought this into being. I mean, Lama Yeshe says to me, you're a Zoom girl. Okay, it is nicer to be in person with all of you, and I will do that at some point or another, but it doesn't matter, because as long as we get the teaching, and as long as we get what we need, and as long as we can do it for all over the world, and as long as we are a unit, we are done. Any questions, any comments, anything you want to know, it's never a stupid question. Never. Remember that. You're all okay. Sure. Okay. But if you change your mind, it's really important. And take this seriously, because this stuff is everything you need. I promise you, when you've got this, your suitcase is ready when it comes to the end of life. Now, my little grandson, who's aged, how old is he? He's just turning 9, I think. I forget how old they all are. But he said to me on the phone after this terrible death, well, Mimi, then everybody can just die. Can they all die? Can all of you die? If this could happen in 1 minute, can all of you die? What an important question. And he's crying because he's really saying to his mom, what if everybody I love dies? Now, when I go there, and I'm going there soon because I'm going there earlier than anticipated, I will take this child, sit him down, and I will say, yes, it is very sad that everybody's going to die, including you, except, I'm going to tell him, except that, you see, inside us is that part of us that goes on forever. We don't die. We actually go to another place, to another life, to another everything. And for the people that are left behind and sad, if you look inside your heart, there you will find the person that died. You'll find everything there. You've just got to go into your heart. That's all. That heart, Tigla Natchik, everything is there. If you learn how to go inwards into your heart, you've got it all there. All that Jigme Lingpa is teaching. And so somehow we've got to find a way to put this over to these little ones, because it's really important what he's going through. if suddenly one day somebody's there and the next day they're suddenly gone, it's easier if they're dying of an illness. But it's a shock to everybody. It ripples shocks to everybody. If they go to the bathroom and they have a heart attack and they die, and that's the end of that. It's a real shock for a little boy. I think the younger one, he just throws it aside kind of thing. But the older one really thinks very carefully. And so this teaching, you can take it, you can give it to your children in a different form, just in an easier form. But as Anam Thubten says, when he looked at the movie The Matrix, and I spoke about it, I'm not going to speak about it now. When he looked at the movie The Matrix, he saw that in The Matrix, everybody was deluded, and they thought their deluded life was everything that there was. But there were a couple of people, and those couple of people are these masters and who were awakened, and all of us who are really searching on an awakened pathway, okay? And they were there to try and change the matrix of samsara. And I love listening to Dzongkar Khyentse Rinpoche, because this girl stood up, in Canada, they ask such direct questions. And she said, Rinpoche, you spoke about enlightenment in 1 minute. Well, I'm very interested in that. She said, we're all interested in that. She said, I want to know how you do it, and I want to know what enlightenment means to you. So it was so funny, because he loves the Kaju lineage, that whole prayer that we said in the beginning. He loves it. He says they bring the most incredible things, and it makes me really shiver, because I think to myself how I came to the Kaju lineage. Even when I found the Dzogchen, the Kaju lineage said it's fine. It's really fine. You can go on that path. We incorporate everything. The two lineages are very closely linked and everything. And he goes like this. He says, oh, I haven't got it here. It's a shoe that made instant enlightenment. She goes, a shoe. He says, yes. When Naropa was full of all his obscurations, Talopa took his shoe and he hit him over the head, and he woke up. He said, because what is in this poem is that we're all awake. We do need a clap over the head, but we need to just clear all the things that are over us that are not enabling us to see who we are. So let's go back where we were last week. I'll just read you the one, it's verse 6 that we were at. I'm just doing this very, very quickly and going on to verse 7 because we haven't got time. So verse 6, you can look. Not falling into the partiality of good and bad thoughts, and not wandering in an undifferentiated state within the limitless vast expanse. Whatever arises, what I've just been saying, is liberated, says Jigme Lingpa, by understanding the nature of reality, in which all accepting and rejecting are intrinsically exhausted. May there be no pitfalls concerning the vital points of the path. Now that verse is very interesting, because what he was saying, and I started this last week, is don't label your thoughts and feelings. Don't label them. Don't get involved in them. Don't go into them and really make something with them. Okay, they're just mental constructs. And all our thoughts and feeling, no labeling, let them flow through. And then he says the technique of shar draw. Okay, you can look it up as well. Whatever arises there, all the draws there, about 3 levels of liberating the thoughts. Shar draw, whatever arises is liberated as it arises. Awareness is not attached to anything. Cultivation and rejection is part of the ego. It's not part of awareness. Rigpa doesn't reject anything. It doesn't say, you're a bad girl, you're a bad man because you're thinking of sex. You're a bad woman because you're thinking of your diamonds. doesn't say any of that. It just says, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, release it and let it liberate. And then that verse goes on to say, in the Dharmakaya state, okay, like it's not neutral. The Dharmakaya state is not neutral. It is space, emptiness, and awareness, knowing. Remember, the awareness and the wisdom is very important, not a zoned out state. Now, a lot of people say, shamatha, shamatha, shamatha. And yes, they're right. You need to have calm abiding when you're doing meditation. You need to try and come back to the breath and let all the thoughts arise and let them liberate and clear your mind of calm abiding. But if you stop there and you don't go on the path of seeing into the calm mind called vipassana, or the path of seeing in Mahamudra, if you're not looking, when you're in a state of shamatha, if you're not looking and you haven't got awareness, then after all your years of meditation, sitting in a cave, you're just lost in the calm states of mind. Without insight, we could be wasting our time. And he says, awareness is always present. When you meditate, meditate with your eyes open, not one-pointed concentration, shutting down the senses. I must be one-pointed. I must shut down the senses. No, because if you do that, you're not in a natural state. This is a natural thing. All techniques are left behind, except your awareness is wide open. Now, if you understand this, okay, and he says the pitfalls, in the end, he says, may there be no pitfalls concerning the vital points of the path. What he means here is, usually in meditation, there's Taisitu Rinpoche taught me, are all the beautiful meditative experiences that you have while you're meditating. Okay, there are three. They're called bliss, clarity, and no thought. Okay, now those are good things to pass through. A lovely blissful state, clarity of mind, and no thought. But don't attach to those, because if you attach to them, they relate to the three realms of samsara, the desire realm, the form realm, and the formlessness. All of those three, you've got to, they're good signs, but you've got to let them go and you've got to let them dissolve. It's so important that you all understand this, because otherwise your meditation is a waste of time. It's really, really a waste of time. Okay, whenever seeing or insight occurs, liberation happens right there on the spot. And he says, Shabkar, in The Flight of the Garuda, which is a beautiful book, if any of you want to read it, it's Keith Dowman writes it, I think, says, in a single moment, in one moment, the shoe, remember the shoe when you think of one moment, okay? In one moment, the dark cave that has stood in darkness for millennia is illuminated by a single lamp, Rigpa, the nature of mind. So you could be sitting there for 50 years, and in one moment, the lamp goes on and you see it. That's what enlightenment in the moment is about. Okay, the cave and the unenlightened consciousness is the inner poisons. That's all. But don't take notice of your inner poison, because once you understand how your habits start leaving you, the things you did before start leaving you, your aggravations start leaving you, because you see, it's just an expression. That's all it is. Okay, so let's quickly go to verse 7. You can put it up, Bern. And then let's look at verse 7 if you can. And let's read it together. Within the space-like original primordial ground, which I've been talking about all morning, just like clouds dissolve into the sky, the display of ground awareness dissolves. The outwardly illuminated mind reverses, because remember, it broke with the vase and now it reverses and it goes inwards within the state of the youthful vast body endowed with the 6 qualities. I'd love to talk about the 6 qualities if you've got time, but I want to finish the whole thing. May I reach the citadel of the King of all fruitions. Okay, Bern, take that off and let's do it. Okay. What's so important for all of you to know is that in fruition, in all the pathways except the Dzogchen pathway, even in Mahamudra, Madhyamika, and Dzogchen all land up in the same place in the end with a liberated being. But the other traditions teach that fruition is the final attainment on the path. So like it says, there's the ground or the essence, then there's the path, and then there's the fruition. So fruition is the end product. But in Dzogchen, the fruition is that there's nothing to attain or not attain. It's just simple. When fruition is simply that all the delusions are exhausted, they're finished. You're not deluded anymore. Doesn't mean you're in a blissful state walking around with everything you ever wished for. Remember Zongsa's answer. I think I told you last time or another time, I might have told the other group. His answer when someone said, how do you know if you're in the nature of mind and if you and the guru or you and Guru Rinpoche, whatever, are now one? He said it's very, very easy, because when you're one with the guru, all the things you wish for don't come true. And you can see everybody's face going, oh my God. He says, and all the things you never even knew to wish for come true. Now think about all the things you never even knew existed come true. So all your crap doesn't come true. Okay, I want this, I want that, I want to live here, I want to live in this house, I want my children to do this, or none of that comes true when you've got that connection. But all the things you never dared to wish for, understanding, insight, wisdom, all these kind of things come true. Then you've got that connection. Such a fascinating thing, don't you think so? So he says here, he says, awakening, when the delusions and all the obscurations are gone, then there's the nature of reality. You didn't have to do anything except stand still or sit in non-action. And he says here, fruition is defined as Zi-Nang. Remember I said Zi-Nang is the display of primordial awareness. Dissolving, that display now dissolves into the primordial ground. And all the negative emotions, the habits, they all dissolve into Dharmata. And then the awareness rests in that inner, illuminated, subtle wisdom. So at the end, you come back and now you are Samantabhadra, the awareness, the Dharmadhatu, that's what you are. And all of those external displays have dissolved right back into you. And if we recognize this and know that phenomena are the pure display of awareness itself, then when it dissolves into the ground, liberation happens. Now you've got to really think about this very carefully, because I could never get out of my mind when Yeshe Tsogyal, who certainly attained the youthful vase body at the end of her life. So she was doing something with someone who was writing something or another. And so she got up and she walked about 10 steps with this being. Okay. And then she said to this being, and I've never forgotten it, those 10 steps are the maximum movement I've done in all time, for a long time. In other words, what was she saying? She was saying, now that the whole Zinang has dissolved back into the essence, back into me, from where I am, and she's not an I, she's a Dharma Dhatu, she's a Rigpa, she's an awareness, everything can just automatically happen. So she can help millions and millions and millions of beings on all the different universes levels simply sitting there. It just automatically happens in this wonderful state. You know, I can't stop pondering that. I think it's wonderful. Because when I look at myself, I run around like a blue-assed fly. Okay, I always got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got to get my lectures, got to get this done, get the newsletter out, do this. This one wants this. Don't forget to send it to them. This one wants that. Imagine if you could do all that in a beautiful state of the youthful vase body. Then, Gail, you've finished and completed running around like a blue-assed fly. You've seen, you've understood, you've really aware, and it all dissolves back. And now you know, you've got Rigpa, you know, and that's what it's all about. That's why we have to go out to come back. And when awareness is no longer dormant, okay, it's not dormant, it's now been out, expressed, and now it comes back. Then primordial awareness, after it shines out, goes back into the womb of the precious spontaneous present. And from that moment, Samantabhadra remains as a Dharmakaya Buddha and becomes a source of blessing to the world. Now you're going to do that too. Jack's going to do it too. It's such a beautiful thing. Samantabhadra is not a Buddha. Samantabhadra is our awakened self. Now there's 6 beautiful qualities, which I'll come back to. Let's do a little meditation. And then I want to just give you this beautiful, I wouldn't mind even doing this as a meditation, but I really want you to understand, I'm going to give you the 6 enlightened qualities that are internal when it's returned in, because then it's very important. You can write those qualities down, okay? But verse 8 is so important. Just let me just give it to you, because we're going to go into it. Just give us verse 8, Bern. Okay. To Samantabhadra, the primordial self-aware awareness, all the notions of attainment, nothing to attain. You just are in that beautiful state. All the notions of attainment dissolve into space. The nature of Ati Yoga, which is Dzogchen, goes beyond effort and mind. There's no effort. In the expansive womb of Samantabhadra, the union of space and awareness, may I reach the citadel of the King of all fruitions. It's exquisite, okay? And I'll come back to those, the 6 qualities in the previous one, if we've got time. But remember, the fruition to be attained is an illusion. And the idea that we could be in the Dharma Dhatu with everything there is it's radical to many. No, I can't understand that. I just want to be this enlightened being, like Milarepa's sister said. Oh, Mila, look at this wonderful guru over here. He's on a horse. All his people are around him, worshipping him. He's got food, he's got wealth, he teaches in the world. And look at you. You are a little ragamuffin. You're wearing a little loincloth. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're disgusting. You all green from the metal tea you drink. Why can't you be like him and you can still do your enlightened thing? And Miller goes, my dearest sister, I am so happy. I'm so content. I'm so fulfilled. He was the Buddha. There was no need to be on a white horse with an umbrella over your head, teaching the Dharma to people. He could teach the Dharma from within to thousands of universes, not just to a little group of people. So I want to do this as the meditation, but with understanding that the Dharma Dhatu resides in all of us. Enlightenment becomes nothing more than removing the veils in our consciousness that prevent us from seeing the timelessly present Dharma Dhatu within. Enlightenment is not some kind of attainment, but is just removing whatever obstacles don't allow us to see the nature of mind. Dzogchen says, the whole world is an ornament of Dharma Dhatu, an ornament. Now, if you look in a room, the ornaments make the room beautiful, but they are nothing. They're not the room. They're just the ornaments. All these things are just the ornaments of the Dharma Dhatu, okay? And attainment is only if the intrinsic duality between something to be attained and someone to attain it are gone. There's no being to attain it. There's nothing to be attained. And so many analogies express the absolute union of awareness and space. Now let's just look at those two, awareness and space. When you look at the Dharma Dhatu, the ground, whatever else, it is not spaced out. Our alaya consciousness is neutral. Anything can go and make an imprint in the consciousness of but the actual alaya is neutral. What we are saying here is that in this pure, spacious ground essence, there is space, but there's also awareness, rikpa, knowing. Space and awareness are unified. If you want to give the most beautiful mandala offering, go like this and say, I offer you, Guru Rinpoche, the beautiful mandala of space and awareness. That includes everything, absolutely everything. So remember that spaciousness. If you go into shamatha, it could be spacious, but it's nothingness. But the Dharma Dhatu, or the essence, is not nothing. It's spacious and, or emptiness and awareness. It's very important that you understand this point. Now, here comes the thing I want us to meditate on. Longchenpa, you know, was a great Dzogchen master, and then he was the previous incarnation of Jigme Lingpa. And Jigme Lingpa, when he came into this world and he went into his caves, Longchenpa, the previous life, used to appear to him and give him all the things that he needed. So this is what Longchenpa is. I wouldn't mind if you wrote this down, because I think it's something you could really, really meditate. We'll meditate upon it, but I think you could do it at home. In the palace of Bodhicitta, the king of self-arisen primordial wisdom resides. In the palace of the Bodhicitta, the king of self-arisen primordial wisdom resides. The display of Tsal, T-S-A-L, the display of Tsal, are his ministers in the palace, the ministers. The true meditation, like it's non-meditation, non-conceptual meditation, is the queen. His vast kingdom is Dharma Dhatu. Now that palace is the palace in your heart. And I want you to get into your meditation posture. I'm going to explain it beautifully to you. And I want you to go into it because it's really important. So breathe in and breathe out. And feel the beautiful spaciousness of the whole sky in front of your mind, in and around you. Blue, 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 and full of space. And when you look deeply, it's not just space. It's Rigpa. It's pulsating with awareness of knowingness of everything. A Buddha knows everything about everything. And this Dharma Dhatu is absolute knowing of absolutely everything. Knowing. So you know everything about everything in samsara and nirvana. So let's go to Longchenpa's description. And I want you to really try and do this meditation over this holiday period, okay? It's really important because it's in your heart. Tigla Nachik, it's inside your heart. In the palace of Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the awakened mind in which everything takes place for the benefit of everyone. So in the palace of Bodhicitta, you can see the Bodhicitta pulsating in the palace, the knowing, the Vajra chains pulsating in the palace of Bodhicitta. In this palace, the king of self-arisen primordial wisdom resides. The king is Samantabhadra, the awakened being, the Guru Rinpoche, the awakened king who lives inside you in this beautiful palace of Bodhicitta. The display of Tsal are his ministers. Tsal is the expression of the ground. It's the Tibetan word. I learned it also from Taisitu Rinpoche. So Tsal is the Tibetan word for when the energy is expressing itself. So within this palace, the energy, the Tsal is expressing itself. When he says there are ministers, they're not exactly ministers like in a palace. They are just all the qualities of everything, doing everything that is necessary to awaken all beings. The display of the energy, as Namkha Norbu talks a lot about Tsal and the other forms of energy. The true meditation, non-conceptual meditation, is the queen. She's the feminine, Samantabhadri, spacious openness. She goes together with the masculine and feminine, go together perfectly in this beautiful palace. And his vast kingdom is Dharma Dhatu, the space of the sky, of the open, aware, full of possibilities, full of everything, and yet empty of everything, and full of Rigpa and full of knowing. Dharma Dhatu is the fundamental ground from which everything arises and everything dissolves into. Yet it's always infinite, ineffable, complete, and perfect. Feel that beautiful palace in your heart that has absolutely everything that you need. Everything. Awakening can often happen in spontaneous situations, but a powerful way to glimpse the absolute truth is through silence, observing silence and doing nothing. In silence, we can go beyond thoughts, opinions, and concepts to awareness, and we can touch the ground, the Dharma Dhatu. And Jigme Lingpa, in another one of his beautiful books, the Yeshe Lama, says this in describing how it feels to be in tune with Rigpa. He says, the silent mind is satisfied. The superior person resides in the grove of quietude. The superior person resides in the grove of quietude. The silent mind is satisfied. Please practice this. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, very special teaching. And if you can, I really suggest you practice this because it's really, really very important. I just want to read you one little story of what happened to this master, if I can find it. It was here. There it is. Anam Thubten says, I one day heard a story about a monk who was an abbot or kempo of a monastery in the Kam region. He was well learned and studied all the Buddhist sutras and tantras, but he felt he'd never even had a glimpse of the true meaning of Dzogchen, and he wanted to have an experience of it. He set off to study with various contemporary Dzogchen masters at the time, yet even after receiving the profound teachings from them, he felt he didn't get the meaning experientially, and it happens to a lot of us, okay? On his way back, the Kempo ran into an ordinary Lama living in the village and shared his experience. The Lama said, I'm not a Dzogchen master, but just let's sit together and pray. You want this enlightenment, let's pray. So, since this Lama was not a Dzogchen master, the Kempo didn't have any expectations or resistance. So they sat together and a huge opening happened where he spontaneously understood Dzogchen directly. He had a profound insight. And from then on, he realized whatever text he read or teachings he heard was presenting the same truth. Now, it's such an important story because don't have expectations. Just do it with joy. Actually put your beautiful spiritual life into full joy and aliveness, and just keep being grateful for having the opportunity to actually be. You know, Patricia's saying, oh, Melanie, it's so peaceful in your room here. It is so peaceful. You can actually, the atmosphere is very clear and very beautiful as I'm giving this teaching, and I'm so thrilled to do that. And Anam Thubten says, which is really important, okay, he said here, one time, he said, I always get happy whenever I read Dohas. My heart just cracks open at his words. One time I was translating Shabka's text, The Flight of Garuda. At that time, there was a lot of chaos happening in the world, with a cycle of news that had a strong emotional impact, obviously negative on many of us. I remember that the moment I started translating the text, the people I was working with suddenly seemed happy. Someone else overheard me translating and told me she also got happy just hearing the words of the Dzogchen Doha. I realized that these things are not that abstract after all, and they really do help people to see a bigger reality, one where we can see the whole picture and not get stuck in the nitty-gritty drama of the mundane world. Now, I hope that today, because I feel that in my heart, I just want to give you a few more things before we end this, and then we can talk. But I just hope that all of you can get that feeling that knowing this, it doesn't matter what is happening in your life, how difficult it is, how hard it is, how everything, these are what you need right now, and you've got to know it. And the most important thing, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow night when I do embracing the circumstances of your life, that Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, when this girl asked, how can you get enlightened in one shot? You know, I think it was with her. He said, the reason we are not enlightened is because of our attachment in this world of samsara. He said, and when he was asked about what obscurations, how do we get obscurations? No, Shariputra asked the Buddha, how do we get obscurations? That's the correct version. And the Buddha said, well, with anger, you create obscurations. With impatience, you create obscurations. With envy and jealousy, you create obscurations. With ignorance and delusions, you create obscurations. And he gives all the things. But if you think that's where he finished, he didn't. Then he went on to say, and Dzongsa doesn't explain this, so I had to ponder it long myself. He says, with generosity, you create obscurations. With patience, you create obscurations. With wisdom, you create obscurations. With meditation, you create anyway. And he didn't explain it. He just said, oh my goodness, how wise the Buddha's teachings are. So of course, I'm not going, come on now, explain. Why did he say all the beautiful? And I'll tell you exactly what conclusion I came to. Could be off the mark, and maybe one of you have a better conclusion. But my conclusion clearly was, anything you are attached to, doing and serving and patience. So all the time you're going, I must be patient in this circumstance. I must be generous in this circumstance. I must do this. I must do that. all of those cause obscurations.
Mel, funnily enough, I was just listening to Tasitu. He said the exact same words, but he said it's your ego, it's I. That's where your I comes in.
Thank you for that. As soon as your I comes in, it's obscured. As soon as you do that, it's obscured. So it's not that those are the wrong things, but when you go into the palace of bodhicitta, those things just happen of their own accord. That's what we're learning to do, to let those things happen of their own accord. It's so important that you all understand this. Quite profound. Very profound. Very, very profound. Because I had to work it out still. Okay, so it's really important. And working it out wasn't, it was just when it came to me. And he says, there is a joy, says Anam Thubten, when we realize that everything, sound, sights, thoughts, are just a display, an ornament of Dharmakaya. Then we get joyful because we wonder why we are really getting us so uptight. And you know, this age are all these egocentric, narcissistic leaders who want to kill for their own egos and things like that. We're in such a terrible time, but maybe it isn't really like that, because we are on Varashana's heart, where his mind is, a very special place, and it has to be a pure land. We can't see it because of our obscurations. You have to ponder all of this very deeply. So just to do the lot. And also he talks about the 12 Vajra laughs. Now, you know, I'm very happy to rather give you this when I'm going to do in one of the groups Vajra speech. And I just wrote down, shame she got knocked off somehow, but I just wrote down in my notes just what this 12 Vajra laughs were, because when I was on retreat, I did these Vajra laughs. I used to read them almost on a daily basis. And the beautiful thing about them is that at the end of them, they go, ha ha. So there are two words, ha ha. I'm just going to read you one. I'll read them at some given point. O Vajra speech. Look at the basic nature of things. And the world never shades its skin, nor changes its color. How marvelous! Regardless of positive or negative interpretation, there's no change in reality. Ha ha! It goes ha ha at the end. I used to read it all the time when I was on retreat. When it goes ha ha, I was going, what do you mean? You know, what is this ha ha? Where is it? And all of that kind of thing. It's so funny. But that is, it's all rubbish, what we believe in and everything, what everybody believes in, it's all rubbish. Why is this in the sun? It shouldn't be, because it's going to give up after a while. Let me put it over here. So let's just finish off, because you've got just a little bit of time, that in his, he says also that in silence, there's awareness that is witnessing our own mind. Awareness witnessing our own mind. And I just want to, okay, let's just do the verse 9. The meaning of the great middle way, non-abiding, the nature of Mahamudra, all-encompassing and spontaneously pervasive, the vital point of Dzogchen, liberation from extremes and expansive, the qualities of the bhumis and the path that you go on in Mahamudra are complete within the ground, within the spontaneously present state. May I reach the citadel of the King of all fruition. Now, I'm not going to do very much teaching on it because we don't have a lot of time left, but it's very interesting because when I asked Tasitu Rinpoche to talk about Dzogchen, when we would all come back in a group, he said, oh, I can't do that because, you know, I'm supposed to be this Mahamudra master. You know, that's how I talk. So he said, but what I will do is I'll talk about all three. Madhyamika, Madhyamika, Mahamudra, and Dzogchen. Now, if you see the notes that I've got on those three, I mean, I've got pages and pages, and those of you that hang around me, you'll probably get that teaching at some particular point. But each of them lands in exactly the same way. But they all have a different meaning. Okay, so Madhyamika, the great middle way, it has a specific meaning. It's not just philosophical construct. It transcends all assertions and is known as the great emptiness. Okay, not in words and concepts. The great Madhyamika is not just negating, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, or it is this, because those are nihilism and eternalism, yet it can be realized. You experience reality not through your thinking mind, but by letting your whole being naturally experience reality on its own with no effort. Then the Mahamudra path, which a lot of you might go on, a lot of the people in the Kaju lineage go on the Mahamudra path, okay? And that means the non-dual awakening to the ultimate truth that pervades everything, that from beginningless time. And mudra is a seal. So like the universal monarch controls the kingdom with a seal, so no phenomena can go beyond the great seal of ultimate truth, the truth of Mahamudra. And then he goes on with Dzogchen, the ultimate truth, or Rigpa, freedom from all conceptual elaborations, two qualities, non-duality, there's no duality, and freedom, space, vast, unhindered, pervading absolutely everywhere, okay? And he says, all these, Madhyamika, Mahamudra, and Dzogchen, are actually totally in harmony with each other. And in Jigme Lingpa's prayer, it's the same in essence. They all have different bhumis and stages. Dzogchen does speak of 16 bhumis, but for some it could be gradual, for others, true awakening can be immediate. In Dzogchen, the qualities of the bhumis, love, wisdom, and power, are already complete within the primordial ground, which transcends any notion of achievement. So you're already there before you even get there. And these 9 verses completely of Jigme Lingpa completely encapsulate the Dzogchen teachings. And then he goes on to the colophon, which is the last one. So let's just read the colophon, Vern. I have gone a little bit quickly, but it's the same stuff. All of it's exactly the same stuff over and over. So that's why I tried to summarize it in the beginning. So the colophon, which is the ending, the quintessence of the enlightened mind, the profound seal of the great expanse, conclude with this profound aspiration prayer. The guardian of the teachings, the sage Rahula, appeared in the form of a monk, and at his request it was composed in order to benefit others by spreading its profound meaning and to complete the auspicious interdependence and aspirations. To the one who was blessed by Namki Ningpo, the hidden Vidyadhara, the crazy one from Kongpu, I opened this profound seal and entrusted him with it. May its benefit for others become as vast as space. Now, I did touch on this in the last session where I said that it was a mind treasure. It was a mind treasure, okay, a gong te, and the entire Longchen Ningchik tradition is regarded as a mind treasure. It just comes out of the mind spontaneously, and it's considered to be the highest level of a terma because it comes from the most sublime source. And then he says that this beautiful monk, Rahula, who was one of the protectors, came out and requested me to do it, and that reminded me that it was already in my mind. And then he makes the prayer that it will have longevity in the world, continue reaching the hearts of many individuals, and help them to discover the highest liberation, which is amazing. And he says, this covers everything that there is in Dzogchen, okay? And he says it can lead to Rigpa in the realm of now. The point is to live this prayer and its aspirations. Doesn't have to be a linear path. The goal of practice can manifest at any single moment. He says what's so important, and I told you this last time, is to get ourselves from the matrix of samsara into really understanding from the ground essence and the luminosity and the enlightened as you see it coming out of the ground. And he says, we experience the sun of happiness shining from within. And last but not least, just 3 points, and then I'll leave it open to you. Very important point. He just gives you methods that you can help, just 3 quick methods that help you a lot in when you want to do this. He says, methods like you say in the middle of your meditation or the middle of your prayers, you go, P-H-A-T, and that shocks the mind, it shocks the thinking mind, and the true nature of mind can come forth. So if you're going along and you're thinking and your mind is ambling along in all the thoughts, while you're sitting there in your shrine room, go, and it shocks the thinking mind out of all its thinking. The second point, the second method, is gazing into space. Very important. So like in my shrine room, I can see the sky from my shrine room and I can gaze into space. And at night, I can also gaze into space. That's resting in the nature of mind, resting. And in Dzogchen, he says, the more kleshas, the more negative emotions, the more dharmakaya. Because your negative emotions get liberated. Like we said in Shaodror, you let them come up, they come up and they get liberated. And he said the third method is reciting a Dzogchen text, reminding you to drop into Rigpa. Now, trust me, if you actually go onto YouTube, I mean, you can go onto Zongsaki NC, you can go onto James Lowe. James Lowe has wonderful teachings on Dzogchen. You just Google James Lowe, you'll find a lot of his things there. You get these little texts, or you order a book and you get these little colophons and these little poems. You see, I photocopy all of them, and then they go into my book, into my big prayer book. And for example, you know, Dajjam Rinpoche, I mean, he does millions of them, and I photocopy everything from his, and it's all in my folders, and it goes with me. Now when I go overseas, it goes with me, and when I'm showering, it's there, and when I'm washing, it's there, and when I'm brushing my teeth, it's there. I'm always saying these things just to remind me. You don't have to, but it's my way of doing it, because it's really hard when you've got to live in a real samsaric world. But I think, as you'll see, it really, really is the most wonderful, wonderful teaching to understand all of this and to know what it is. So anyone want to make a comment about how you feel even? Does it exhilarate you? Does it free you a little bit? Does it give you hope? Because these two, they definitely think it does in my shrine. But what about all of you? Anyone want to say, comment, tell me, does it make you joyful? Because it should. Dhammika makes you joyful. Because I know you've got a struggling incarnation, a really, really hard incarnation. So have a whole lot of you, but she's got a really hard incarnation. She's challenged to the bitter end. And you know what? And moving every 5 minutes, she's got to move to another home, you know, but 7 moves in 5 years. I don't know how you do it. I had my full admiration, but you must really think about being like Naropa and all of these that had, like Patrol Rinpoche, that had one little sack over his back. That was all he had to move. Not like me. Which teaching should I take when I go out of this house? What should I do? What happens if I've got to teach in other places? I've got to have all my... No. I probably don't. Because if I just go into the palace there, I'll probably find everything I need. But if this doesn't do it for all of you, then nothing will, I promise you. It's very radical. It's a radical book. It's radical prayer. Bern, what do you think?
I'm with you. Totally excites me.
Good.
There is a lot. There is a hell of a lot, but I do feel very excited, very freed.
Yeah. Listen.
Lots of it.
And there really, really is. And it doesn't matter where you land up, and it doesn't matter what problems you have, and it doesn't matter who you've got to look after and all that kind of thing. You know, it really, really is the most amazing way of life. And I will file it like this with all the notes that I made, and maybe give it somewhere else some other time. But it's also worth maybe getting this book, you know, the Citadel of Awareness, because I don't think it'll be very expensive, but you have to go on Amazon or sometimes loot books, you know, to get these books. But it's probably worth it if you can. You know, some of you can't and some of you can, because I think it's really worth being in touch with him. And in the beginning, I don't know if you remember on the first session, but you can go back over that. He gave a lot of general things about Dzogchen and everything. Nicola, I love to hear your beautiful voice. And you've got so much wisdom.
I've been reading that book. And it's really wonderful. He explains everything in such a simple way. And what I love about, as you say, the beginning part where he just discusses the general things, is he really emphasizes with great effort how this is about a path that's about it's being ordinary. It's not about having these great mystical experiences and esoteric experiences and all of that. It's just completely ordinary. And he said that's why we often struggle with it, because we're seeking something not ordinary. So that's been, I really love that.
I love that too, and that's why, you know, even with Dzogchen Khyentse calls it ordinary mind. Actually, this mind, this human intellectual mind, is not your ordinary mind. It's a fake one, you know, that took over. It's part of the ordinary mind, but it's not your ordinary mind, because how we think is not the way it is. I don't know how we're going to change the world. Maybe we are, and maybe we aren't. I don't know. All I know is that I'll try my best to change and to just give it out of joy and whatever else there is. Gail, darling, what are you feeling?
We don't have to change the world. We just have to change the world within us.
Exactly.
And it'll affect all the people around us in a positive way.
Absolutely right. And that's the point. Isn't it the point in the end where it dissolves back into the vase body, into the Dhammadhatu? And there it is. But like when you said, but why does it have to go out at all? It's got to go out. It's got to experience the manifestation of the ground. And then once it's experienced that, then it comes back, because then it's got all the knowing of how it is in the world. But you know, if you look at the Buddhist teachings, if you look at the Buddha's real teaching, it's the most amazing thing that in the end he gave these teachings out. To me, it's absolutely amazing, because he really could have very easily decided not to. if the gods wouldn't have come and begged him. So I think it's really important to just see, you know, I mean, so many things are given in contradiction to our ordinary minds, but it's such beautiful, beautiful teaching. And I just want to end it now, but I want to take my old favorite story, which I think is so beautiful because I think it's appropriate if somebody listens to the course. It's called Sailing on the River. A great Chinese landscape artist spent many months on a large mural. Having completed the final strokes, he stepped back to survey the finished work. He sighed deeply and told his apprentice that this was his greatest work and that he could never hope to do a better painting. He handed his brush to his apprentice and then walked up to the edge of the mural. He then calmly stepped onto a rock, painted in the foreground of the mural, and got into a boat that was moored beside it. He raised the sail and steered the boat across the lake, where he rounded the headland and disappeared forever beyond the horizon. I love it. It came in one of my Chinese stories or whatever. Just disappear beyond the horizon. You know, don't worry about the other things. They'll all take care of themselves through you. But let's end anyway, because I think it's more than enough. And then we're only going to meet in September. I'll send you the dates and everything. And I think there's tons of stuff you can watch. I think there's tons of stuff you can see of mine if you want, if you're not bored with me, or of all these beautiful masters that are really managing to give us such beautiful things. And the merit of your beautiful prayer, Jigme Lingpa, and it is the most beautiful prayer of all that you left us in the Longqing Ningtik, is so important for people to understand and not be bogged down in their problems, even in wars and everything else. And through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, which knows everything. And thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene cheganachi balap dropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho.